Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. One of the last sessions. So hopefully everybody is still awake and not sessioned out. But I know these sessions are going to be recorded and you can connect with me anytime if you want to learn more about all this because you're half asleep right now. So totally understand. I am Holly Firestone, Vice President of Community at Venafi. You can find all my information below, including my LinkedIn, my Twitter, and my website, which is really just a link to my blog, chock full of good information. Talk really fast because I always have so much information I want to get out at y'all, but I'm keeping an eye. I was keeping an eye on the chat. I'm keeping an eye on the chat now. So if I'm talking way too fast, let me know. Just trying to get through all this awesome content. So sit, stay, and speak. We're going to talk a little bit about me, just quick background, why I'm always thinking about community ops, what I've thought about community ops in the past, breaking things down for our ops top dogs, and then time for Q&A. So put your questions in the Q&A panel if you have any. And if for some reason we don't get to them, no worries. I'm going to get those questions and I will answer them on Twitter. And then, of course, we have our buddy Ted here from Schitt's Creek. I'm also wearing this lovely Schitt's Creek shirt for my buddy Erica Moss. And so let's get started with this little operations pup talk. If you don't know me, that's okay. Not everybody does. I'm just very loud. But I have had an opportunity to work at some of the most incredible companies. I worked at Atlassian, building out the community there, and Salesforce. And now I'm at Venafi, which is a security company. We do machine identity management. And every single community has been a really incredible part of my journey and has had a completely different flavor to it. And I attribute a lot of my success in my career to ops, which might seem kind of crazy because a lot of people really don't hear that much about community ops or haven't totally wrapped their heads around it. So I'm going to give you a very high level kind of overview of what I think ops looks like. And then we can kind of talk about, what it could be. Most importantly, these are my babies. I love weenie dogs. They're both weenie mutts. So you've got Zeus on the left, and he is a Dachshund Chihuahua mix that is 17 years old now. And Chester, who's 1.5, and he's the devil. He just popped up when he heard me say his name. He's super cute and he gets away with murder, but he's also really dumb. Moving along, I want to talk to y'all about my pet peeve. And we've had Ted come back for us here. So there's this, it kind of grinds my gears every time I hear it. And I hear it a lot, which is that ops are not sexy. All the community management stuff that you do, rolling out programs and all of that stuff, giving out swag, that's the sexy stuff, but ops are not sexy. And I'm here to tell you, ops are sexy, all right? There's so much more to them. And it seems like it's not the big flashy stuff, but the things that you can do with a really, really strong ops team and ops program are mind-blowing, truly. And they allow other parts of the team to be able to operate at really high levels too. So, I mean, this picture, I was showing this to my husband. He was like, this makes me uncomfortable. So I hope that y'all are uncomfortable as well, because we have to start thinking about ops and getting a lot more comfortable with it and getting out of our comfort zone. So there's dogs and pantyhose. To kick it off, I want to talk a little bit about my experience with ops. Also, you will see a lot of weenie dogs. They are by far my favorite. So I started Atlassian in 2013. And when I started, we had 200 Atlassian user groups, OGs. And then when I really started digging in and trying to figure out how to manage the program on my own, realized that, once I started putting some tracking behind it, there were probably only 40 active user groups, but we were sitting there thinking there were 200 because we measured everything. We tracked everything in a spreadsheet, which any ops person right now, cover your ears. I know that's painful. And so we weren't able to see how often were they meeting or, when's the last time that they met, anything like that. We just didn't have any tracking in place. So that was one of the first things that I did is start thinking about how we get everybody on one platform for their group meetings. And then that would enable us to integrate with Salesforce and then measure the impact of what we were doing, how active groups were, who's been onboarded, but who's been onboarded and actually had hosted meetings and events, right? Because that's the important thing. It's not just, oh, they came to us and said they want to be onboarded. Sure, there were 200 of those, but most of them had never even met before. So that was a really, really important thing to put in place. The first time I ever spoke at a conference was when I was working at Atlassian. I was so nervous. It was so scary. And I remember I talked about scaling your community by building another community. And a lot of that presentation was around building the structure and ops to make community work in a really smart way. So one of the things that I think was the most beneficial when I was at Atlassian is we rolled out Jira Service Desk, which is an Atlassian product, but it was like a support ticketing desk. And so then our community had a place to go to submit their tickets, to view their tickets, and then we could see what types of tickets they were and what kind of requests we were getting for support and be able to track everything. Or if somebody went on vacation, we were able to have anybody jump in and help out, especially as the team grows. So I'm sure a lot of you are kind of putting on your sunglasses and hiding your face because you have an email address that people have to find and then know to reach out to you. And that's okay if you have something like community @, but if it's your own email address, your inbox fills up, as your team grows, that's simply not sustainable. It's simply not a way to do it at scale. And most importantly, it's not a way that you can measure your success either, right? Like you're not able to look and say, oh, well, I didn't spend my time doing all of these things over here because we were so busy with X, Y, and Z. And these are the type of requests we're getting. And that also helps you figure out how to make things, how to optimize things, but we'll get into that. Then there was opposite Salesforce. So many of you know that one of the absolute queens of community, Erica Cool, started the Salesforce community. And when I started working there, I was like, there's not going to be anything for me to do here. It's done. And she was like, oh boy, just you wait. And she was right. So at Salesforce, if you could believe it, we were managing all of the programs in spreadsheets. So we ran into the same situation, especially with our user group program. We knew who we kind of onboarded, but we didn't actually know what was going on with their group or anything like that. So it came down to pulling together a platform to be able to have everybody in one single place, and then opening up a support ticketing platform. So we had desk.com at the time, and rolling that out was really important so we could have a centralized place for people to go to get onboarded. When somebody wanted to be a new leader, there was like a Google email template that existed, explaining to them what the next steps were. So building out the right documentation to give to people when they wanted to be onboarded as leaders. So this was huge. And I think we probably kind of in the same boat said we had something like 300 user groups when I started, but really we probably had about 100 that were active. By the time I left, we had 1,300. So if you can imagine, the team grew, but not enough to sustain that kind of growth had we not really thought about operations and put them into place. And this is not me insulting Erica Cool, who is one of my favorite people in the entire world and one of the most brilliant community professionals in the entire world, because you have to remember she was going at this alone. So that's something that I'm sure that a lot of you are running into is, well, how am I supposed to manage all of these things at once? And that was the big issue I ran into at Atlassian as well. But I decided that this stuff had to be prioritized for me to make that investment in the future of the programs and the future of the community. So this is the way I want to kind of show everybody a little bit about community operations. Ops top dogs. Observe, plan, scale, track, optimize, platform documentation, operational budget, guidance, and special projects. If you are trying to figure out what an ops person does, these are a lot of things. This is not an exhaustive list. There is so much more that can be done, but these are the things I kind of want to walk through to give you an idea of what an ops person can bring to your team, or what you can do as an ops person if you're trying to kind of grow out your role. And y'all, I'm sure you're screenshotting this. I'm going to tweet this right after the presentation so that you can actually save the image too. All right, so let's start with observe. How annoying is it when somebody joins a team and they come in and tell you all the things that you're doing wrong with absolutely zero context, or all the things that you need to change? They have no idea why decisions were made and no idea, the background on all of these things. So the most important thing, this is for anybody that starts on any team, but really important for an ops person, is to observe. Sit back and understand how things are running now, what needs to be prioritized, the biggest pain points and opportunities that you can have for this team. But you have to observe first to really understand that and really understand what priorities are and success metrics are for these programs too. Next one is plan. Operations, more than almost anything else, you have to have a really solid, smart plan before going into implementing anything, because these things take a lot of time. Now, do they have to be perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing is ever going to be perfect, but really developing an operations strategy is important. And somebody that's operations minded, being able to do that is huge. and thinking about prioritization, the roadmap, planning management tools as well. So what tools is your whole team going to be able to use, and how are they setting that up to set everybody up for success? All right, so scale. So you've got observe and plan. And as you're planning, you need to be thinking about scale. You want to think about how you can optimize, well, I'll get there, but you want to be thinking about how you can build your operations plan for today, of course, right? I mean, you have to get things in place right now, but you also want to be thoughtful about what this looks like in a year, in 2 years, and 5 years. So you don't have to rebuild everything. That would be crazy. Obviously, you're going to have to iterate, but thinking about how do you build all of these processes so that they grow naturally as your community grows. And that includes automation. That's why the Roomba is here. The Roomba dog makes me laugh. But also team roles and management. Who's owning what, and how does that process work, and how do approvals work? All of these things so you can know how to do things quickly and at scale as a team, but really as an operations person. That comes to you to say, kind of map this out. And doesn't mean that other people on the team don't give feedback and work with you on that. But really thinking about that scale piece is going to be huge, because unless, I don't know about y'all, some of y'all maybe, but you don't have huge community teams, right? So how are you going to keep proving value, keep growing your community if you don't think about scale right now? And that's, I think, one of the most important things an operations person can do. The next is track, which is probably the most important thing an operations person can do. So I wrote it a million times: measure, 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 data, data, data. It's one of the most important elements of a comm ops role. That doesn't mean that measurement and data is not every single person's responsibility on the team, but putting all the structure in place to make sure that you're being thoughtful about how you're tracking things, how you're measuring things across every platform, across every program, that it's all being pulled into the same place, so that you're looking at things in the right way to compare them, looking at data over periods of time, delivering insights based on those metrics. This is all huge. And then reporting data to stakeholders is also really important. This is obviously where product like ComStore comes in, bringing everything together, which obviously I fangirl over ComStore. I'm not going to be shy about that. So thinking about a lot of operations people are probably just so excited and thrilled to see something like ComStore where you can bring everything together, because that's something that we've always had to do kind of in different places for a really long time. And there's still things that you have to do in different places, but hopefully we're moving in the right direction on that. But this is so, so, so important, because this is how you figure out how your team is going to measure success. The next one is optimize. So scale, track, optimize used to be my mantra, and there's so much more to operations, but that chunk of things is really, really important. So thinking about optimization, I said, you're not going to build everything perfectly right away. There's absolutely no way. So you build things and you see how they work, and then you optimize. Okay, maybe something's a higher priority now than it was before. So we figure that out. Maybe you are not getting a headcount you thought you were going to get. So where can we automate to help alleviate some of those things? So thinking about all of that is really, really important. It's tricky. And even in terms of optimization, you don't get that right the first time. It's never ending, really. You're always thinking about how to iterate, how to optimize, how to make things better. And I added stakeholder alignment to this as well, because things do change. So making sure that your stakeholders understand the changes that you're making, and you're going to be getting feedback from them as well to see what's working, what's not working, and then optimize for that as well. All right, platform. I love this one. So anything and everything to do with the platforms that you're using for your community. That's online platform, offline platform, CRM, whatever it is, all of those different pieces. So understanding, the role that they're really running platform selection. It doesn't mean, again, that your team isn't contributing. Of course, you want your community managers contributing to that conversation. Everybody should be, but really running that project and owning, pulling the things together that are needed most, managing the integrations, the implementation. And then after the platforms are launched, feature requests and bug tracking internally, externally, all of those different pieces. I mean, anything and everything that has to do with the platform. The next is documentation. I can't with this gift. Documentation. So documentation is very, very important for anybody and everybody. And it's really key to have a strategy around it. You may not think that, but having a thoughtful strategy around how things get documented, where they get shared. How are they private? Are they private to your team? Can other teams get them? What is the structure of that? What does it look like? An operations professional is going to know exactly how to set that up to make it the most meaningful for the team. Are they documenting things? Yes. Are the rest of the team members documenting things? Yes. But how to do it in a thoughtful way so the team is following the same process for how everything is documented so you don't lose anything. So this doesn't all fall on the operations team or person to do all of this work, but they are helping enable the team to be able to do it in a smart, thoughtful, process-focused way. Oh, and I put ensuring docs are correct and current. So, some kind of process or system to make sure you're going back and things are getting updated. That's a really, really important one people forget about. And then you have all this like floating documentation that's old. All right, operational budget. This one is interesting because it could fit in a bunch of different places in your community team. A lot of times, leadership will take that over, but I like it in an operations role as well because they are, managing the vendor for the platform and, they're tracking projects. So they're tracking, the payments that need to be made and working with the procurement team to make sure that all of these things are getting taken care of, contracts are getting signed and things are pushing forward. Oh, and actually, I'll also add there because of tracking and, measurement things that they're putting in place, making sure that that aligns with the budget too, so you can track your dollars and what they're meaning to your success metrics is really important. Guidance. So like I said, everybody has a role to play in community operations. It doesn't just fall on your operations person. So it's not like tap, tap, tap. Hey, operations person, I need you to pull me these 16 reports. Operations person needs to be able to set up a way of learning, training everybody on the team for all of these things so that they can enable the rest of the team to be able to do these things as well. It's not scalable for one person to do all of it. So they set up all of the different pieces, for that to happen. Kind of goes back to documentation too. Where the documentation is for everything that you need to learn how to do, but they're also training and available to answer questions. And then platform education, automating reports for the team so that you're not tap, 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 can you give me this report all the time? So tons of different stuff there, but it really comes to teaching operations to the rest of the team. Even though they're not setting up the structure of it, day-to-day operations still need to happen from a bunch of different people. And then special projects. This dog is Crusoe. He's an Instagram celeb. I love him. He's always in different costumes. So Crusoe, ladies and gentlemen. So the next thing is special projects. There's so much other stuff that can pop up in an operations role, thinking about accessibility in your platform, working with legal, domain and SSL management, governance, M&A, additional programs, and literally it never ends. And this is not an exhaustive list. None of this is, but a ton of these things can come up. M&A is an interesting one. It's something that I'm super interested in. So how do you take a mature community and bring it into another mature community when a company is acquired? We've seen it happen with a bunch of companies lately, but it's still relatively new. So I think about tons of that stuff when you think about operations, and there's so much more. It's never ending. That was a really fast run through that list. I'm doing okay on time. Can one person do all of those things? No, absolutely not. That would be crazy, right? And so it kind of, taking a step back, you're looking at your community team right now. Why is operations going to be such a big thing? Why is it so important? Think about all the other stuff that we're not talking about that has to happen with your community, like community management, engagement, content, all of moderation, like it just never ending. How? As a community team of one, are people doing both of these things? You're sacrificing, and it's happening. I looked at the poll of how many people are in your community team, and one is by far the highest number. So it's going to have to be a balance, or you can possibly outsource some of these things. I like having an operations person not on a special operations team, but directly on the community team because they know our business best and know the community. They can get out and be in the community. That's usually somebody that kind of rides the line of both. I actually see myself as more of an operations person than a community management person, which might surprise a ton of people, but that's where I've had the most impact in my career. I certainly love the community management aspect of it as well. And there are people that are both, but there are people that are just polar opposites. And that's okay because you can grow your career in both of these because this is going to continue to grow. Not one person can do all of these things and the things that aren't listed here, teams will continue to grow. And that means that specializations are coming. So just, like you have seen specializations in community management, this will happen in community ops. You can't say community ops person, hey, accessibility and M&A and all the team operations and this, and this. You will see it breaking out into specializations that fall under this kind of operations wing, just like you would in any other team, just like you would in marketing or, in sales, you have sales operations teams. So think about that, because this is going to continue to expand and grow. It's going to become more and more important as we're making data-driven decisions in our communities and we're thinking about scale, and communities are finally getting resourced. So I see this growing significantly, and people that are in operations being able to take on people management roles, because there will be specializations that come from this. So last look at this. Again, I will tweet this, so you don't have to write it down really fast, but kind of the general overview of the big things that I look at when I think about community operations. So speaking of ops top dogs, more weenie dogs, because they're so cute, I wanted to let everybody know that there is a meetup called Observations. Very punny. I love it. And it's led by two of the world's best community operations professionals, Tiffany Oda, who, if you haven't heard, is joining me and Sophia Rodriguez-Mata at Venify. I'm over the moon about it because she's the best in the entire world. And Cassie Mays, who's also just really well known as world-class operations community professional, really incredible. So they started this meetup. The next one's June 10th. If you want to know more, it's a Slack channel in the Community Club Slack. You can email them. Those are their Twitter handles. And, there's a lot of people going to this meetup, which is really amazing. And it shows that operations is growing a lot. And a lot of people are thinking about this. It's funny because when I hired Tiffany at Salesforce, that was not her background at all, but it was so obvious that she was made for this kind of role. And that's how we grew that role really around what needed to be done. And she identified a lot of what needed to be done and really built out that role into what I think community operations should be. There's other really great community people, Brittany Crochera, Stephanie Nakano, they're doing really great stuff in operations as well. So great people to connect with that care a lot about the operations side of programs. So with that, I've got a couple minutes left, but before I start Q&A, I did show you a lot of really cute dogs, and we had a talent show with the pets for the conference. And I just read a couple days ago that a lot of people that are adopted dogs during the pandemic, at least here in the US, are returning them now, which is gut-wrenching. And I couldn't have this whole dog-themed presentation without mentioning that. So today I'm going to match up to $500 to help our furry friends and keep this chain of dogs and cats going. So if you tweet a picture of your favorite fuzzy friend, something funny about them, and tweet it at me and Austin Pets Alive, or you can just DM me if you're not comfortable doing that. I would still really like the fuzzy friend pictures. And then ComSor, or Community Club, has generously offered to also match up to $500 in donation. So if you donate $5, it turns into $15. I know this is a weird pitch to have at the end of my community thing, but it's so important because we love our fuzzy friends. They entertain us so much. We don't deserve them. And with that, thank you for being the perfect audience. I will check out the Q&A while y'all look at my little babes. We got Zeus over there at our wedding, and then Chester, who, beautiful dog, not so smart, but at least he's cute. That's how we think he survives. So let me just head over to Q&A, and I will stop screen. Well, actually, yeah, I'll stop screen sharing. Okay. Q&A. Let's see what we got here. Woo! Woo! Okay, I'm trying to get through as many of these as I can. And then like I said, I will get these questions and I will answer them in Twitter right after this. So Scott is a community team of one. Any experience, or have you seen ops role being filled by someone else in the org temporarily or half-time until there is a clear use of a business case built? Yes. So kind of when I said, I talked a little bit about outsourcing. There's different teams that you can probably lean on to do some of the operation stuff. They may not have as big of an understanding about your team and processes. You can kind of kick some of that stuff off. But generally, let's say you have a Salesforce admin, they can help you, set up your Salesforce. Or if you have, different operations teams that they can probably do some different things for you around project management, or setting up some kind of support desk. I mean, obviously you have your own support. There may be a way for them to kind of just branch off and have you use your support tool that you're already using to be able to answer questions. So I think there's some opportunity there for sure. You'll eventually want to bring it all together as you build the business case, but lean on the other teams that you have so that you can focus on, the things that are most high value for you to be working on. And I think that that's probably the best way to go for now, is lean on the other teams internally. What qualifications does somebody in community operations have? How do you balance operations experience versus community experience? This is a great question, and kind of goes back to what I was saying, that there are a lot of people that are very operations focused and a lot of people that are community management focused. One thing that I would look across for everybody is empathy. I don't think that's just a community management trait that you need to look for, because somebody that's building out the operations needs to understand everything that your community is going through. So a great example is reimbursements. So at Atlassian and Salesforce, we provided a stipend for all of our user group leaders to run their events. And at both places, actually, we're having a lot of trouble getting things reimbursed in a timely fashion. So we would want an operations person to prioritize that over a lot of other things, because it comes down to the people who are volunteering and putting their money out. We need to get them paid back fast. So empathy, I think, is a string across everything, but then somebody with project management skills is very, very important. Project manager, a program manager, a product manager, like all of those things are really, really going to be important for when it comes to operations. And then somebody that has experience with tracking metrics, success metrics, potentially experience with your CRM, if that's possible. I mean, I'm basically just naming all the things I love about Tiffany Oda. I think she's a unicorn though, and all the breadth of experience that she has. But again, she didn't come from a community background. So I think, it's a mix, and you'll find someone that cares about community and can be empathetic, to the community, but then also has this like program management background as well, with some technical chops too. All right, Mr. Hamilton. I was about to break out into the song. I love Hamilton. Okay, Evan Hamilton. What's the right stage to bring someone on in this role? So I think immediately, I mean, at Venify, I got 2 headcount, and one is Sophia, who's really focused on the community management aspect and that whole huge world. And then you've got Tiffany, who's focused on the operations aspect. And those are my first 2 hires, and then we'll hire for their teams. So I think both are important. And it's like the way that I look at splitting it up at Salesforce. I had 7-person team, and I was split between operations and community management. And then we had 2 operations and the rest community management. So I value operations a lot, especially as you're setting your community up from the beginning. That's the great time to have the right person, put the right structure in place for everything that you're doing. So if you are a more community management focused person, then maybe you focus on taking that on and bringing somebody that's operations minded. And if you're the other way, then you go the other way. So you kind of have to think about what your strengths are. And if you already have someone on your team, what their strengths are, and then grow it from there. Let's see. How am I on time? I can answer one more. And again, I'm just at Holly Firestone on Twitter, and I will just somehow get these questions and then go through and answer them on Twitter right after this. Let's see. I think, is that it? Are those all the questions just on the top? Let's see. I think that's it actually. So perfect and right on time, which never happens for me because I talk too much. Where can you get that shirt? I'm not good. I'll ping you with where you can get that. We'll just say it's a very, very big retailer. That nobody's going to like me for saying I got it there. Okay, so we're right at time. There's an amazing podcast that's happening after this, so I don't want to run over. Thank you all for sticking with me. I am happy to answer any other questions you have. Tweet at me. The earrings, yes. Tweet at me. I would love to chat with all of you. I'm going to post that slide right now on Twitter. And yeah, thanks so much. Y'all are all awesome. And thank you, Community Club. And don't forget to donate to the puppies and kitties because we love them and other furry creatures and I don't know, feathered creatures. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I'm being awkward. Love y'all. Bye-bye.